All right, we are going to talk about Abraham,
Uh,
Damian Abraham, and Dr. Siri. Okay, so I'll start with the first theory. I chose dialectical behavioral therapy, so DBT, which is typically used. It's a type of talk therapy, but it's used for people who experience emotions very intensely. So I took that one because Dr. Siri, just pointed out that he just has rage on the stage and the ramifications of dealing with what's his name?
Damien.
Damien. um Shame is that he unconsciously takes this shame and he uses it to defend against whatever, everybody, anything. And it becomes, Siri says, he becomes an all out, star to counteract the shame that he has. And, um, everybody sees him on stage and he's flamboyant and he's crazy, really. But he has very intense emotions, like all across the board, just crazy and rage. And um his music sounds that way too. I didn't know who this was, but when I heard the
Yeah,
music, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's intense.
yeah, I had to look him up too. I was like,
Yeah.
who is this?
Well, they just had that one little like 5, 6 second like clip, and I'm like, well, that's enough. I don't need to hear anymore. All right. So what do you have for theory?
Okay, so I had initially thought to use the social learning theory because of, how he said that the way that he treats people is not nice, and like uh the doctor pointed out how it's probably the way that he's identifying with the aggressor, which was his stepdad growing up, how he like, I mean, from what he described, it was like an emotionally abusive home. Not physically, but just like emotionally, the way that they were all kind of scared and like worried about how he was gonna like what he was gonna say, or I think he said something about he wouldn't talk to them for like 3 days because
Yeah.
he would like run down the stairs or make too much noise or something. Um, so I mean, I had used that one for the last interview that we watched. So I chose psychodynamic theory, which it's primarily concerned with like how your emotions like motivate human behavior. And I noticed that he said his anxiety, from what he remembers, started from when he was a little kid, and
Mm.
they thought he had a learning disability, but I mean, I don't know if he came to this on his own conclusion, or he helped, or he discovered it in therapy or whatnot, because he says that he's therapy, and the cannabis kind of helps him now deal with his anxiety. So he doesn't, I guess that anxiety has been like a big motivator for the way that he's portrayed himself, I guess his ego, like his stage persona, and then the person, like how he really feels inside, is not the person that's on stage. um so I mean, the psychodynamic theory says emotions have a central place in human behavior, whether unconsciously or consciously. um so what does it say? Ego defense mechanisms to avoid becoming overwhelmed by internal or external demands. So I don't know, I just thought that was a good one. And it also like a big thing is helping the, I guess, the client identify how like past traumas or abuse kind of um is what triggers or causes like a lot of the future like adult behavior, maybe his panic attacks, and the way that he treats people. It's like almost like a learned behavior, and the shame uh that his stepdad made him feel, you know what I mean? Like maybe that's the way he carries it out like in his day-to-day life. He talked about how he was mean to his bandmates, that they weren't really
Mm.
friends, which is kind of odd, I think. I mean, if you're in a band, you would think that they have like a close relationship, but he himself has noticed that he's like mean to people, and the way that he treats people is not ideal, I guess, or nice. So one model of intervention was problem solving. So it helps you. Why did I pick that one? I put problem solving as a model of intervention. Robert, I'm doing homework. Okay. Um, I'm trying to now. I lost my train of thought. Understanding the problem, brainstorming possible solutions, having the client pick a solution. I mean, I think for this problem solving, for this model of intervention, that I noticed, I think from what I picked up on, the Dr. Singh was, I guess, okay with his cannabis use. I mean, it's been something that has helped him. And I don't, like, he stated that it was something that finally gave him relief. So, I mean, I guess that's a way for him to kind of deal with his issues, you know what I mean? Or his anxiety that he felt comfortable with, you know? So he kind of found that solution on his own. He kind of stumbled upon it, even though he was a little bit embarrassed at first because he was straight edge. So like sober for so many years, and then like come to see that this thing that's, I mean, now legal, helped him so much with his anxiety. One of the approaches I saw him use was the breath of fire technique. It's deep breathing that has him reflect on conscious and unconscious shaming. So he kind of like guided him through that, I guess, like to remember and reflect on like the shame that he felt as a child and kind of like release it. So I don't know. I know that we've learned that trauma has to be moved through the body. So in a way, I've maybe that technique also helps to kind of move the trauma through the body and kind of helps the person release it. And that's what I got for that. So his approach was breath of fire technique. I saw him use other stuff. He used inner child, like forgiveness, inner critic, like he um pointed out that he identified with the aggressor with his behavior, I guess in the way that he treated people and the way that he shamed people. Um, the angel cards. So I mean, he used a lot of good stuff, but those are the ones that I picked up on.
Yeah,
I don't know.
where'd you get the breath of fire? Is that what you called it?
Yeah, he called it that.
Oh,
He
he
said,
did? I didn't hear that. So I used that breathing exercise as one of the models of intervention,
okay,
which you used it for a different one, but that's fine. So
breath of,
yeah, I haven't ever seen that breathing technique before. So I was like, well, that's interesting. Like,
yeah, right.
obviously, the client had done that before because you wouldn't just like know what to do, right? Like, or he told him what to do or something
You've
because
seen it before, like with the client?
I haven't seen it.
Okay. Okay.
No,
But yeah, I thought it was interesting because he kind
yeah,
of like he was having him hyperventilate himself a little bit.
yeah, to get like, I don't know, more like emotion, maybe is what I
Yeah.
thought.
To help release that, like, I don't know, like
I
that's this.
think it helped him release the shame and
Yes. Yes.
the like his weight issues and his disability when he was young and like all the kind of trauma pieces and the hard living
Yeah,
as a kid and
I liked
it's
it. I
kind of
thought it was interesting. The breath of fire. Yeah, if you like rewind it a little bit, you'll hear him say breath of fire.
okay, okay.
But yeah, I don't know if my model of intervention is correct, but I mean, I just used it. It just seemed like he was um kind of pointing out to him like what he could do or like to kind of help him with his anxiety. And I don't know. What did you put for what is, can you tell me again what you model of intervention, you used the breath work?
Yeah, and then I did one of the skills I used is interpretation. And,
Okay.
so that's where the client was saying, at the dinner table, there was all this stress and anxiety, and how he had to walk on eggshells, and it was like a time bomb. I mean, he used all those words. And
Mhm.
then he said, he could set this guy off because you ran down the stairs, and then he wouldn't talk to you for days. He said all that, and then Dr. Siri interpreted that as saying that means I'm not good enough, and that builds shame. And so it's just interesting that he just pulled that right out as he interpreted, the
Yeah.
client's story as well, I'm not good enough. And that's so true. I mean, that's how the client felt. So
Yeah,
that's a
like he didn't do
skill.
anything right.
Yeah. And then the approach that I used was the client centered therapy approach,
Oh,
where the therapist basically helps the client change by emphasizing concern and care and interest. And Dr. Siri did that in multiple ways, but he did that specifically where he told the client to have empathy for the child. Like when he went back and thought about that stuff, he's like, have empathy for him. And um, so then the client went through that, and Dr. Siri, points out fear, anxiety, that he wanted to stay in control, like desperately, he used the word desperately trying to stay in control, but he just can't. The client's just out of control because he has too much shame. So yeah, those are
I
those
like
are the ones I used.
it was pretty, I mean, the therapist is a therapist and he has a lot of obviously knowledge, but I thought that this guy, Damien, was pretty insightful. And it seems like he had done a lot of work and therapy and stuff already.
Yeah,
Um, so I mean, it was like their rapport was nice, you know what I mean? That they were able he wasn't resistant, I guess is what I'm getting at, you know?
right. Yeah, yeah,
He wasn't resistant or like in denial, like he kind of already knew a lot of the things that the doctor was pointing out to me.
well, yeah, he was pretty self-aware, which
Yes.
makes me think that, yeah, somebody either pointed those out before or he's done work on himself. I mean, I don't know, but
Yeah, I thought so too. I think this was a good one. So I enjoyed watching that.
yeah,
The only thing with these that they're like that the client is more like therapy savvy or like self-aware is that sometimes it's harder to for me it was like I had to watch it a couple times like it's harder to pick up on the what he's using like to help the client. You know what I mean? Other
yeah,
than the obvious ones like the angel cards and like the breath work and all that stuff and the you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like it was a little harder to I don't know. I don't know why I thought it was a little bit more difficult to pick out the things or strategies that he was using.
Maybe because you were distracted.
I was very distracted, yes. I was.
All
But
right,
yeah,
I'll go
okay.
ahead and stop the recording there.